Hello everybody, my name is Will, I am with Ratings Game Music, and today we are talking about the release of the biggest film of the year, that is James Cameron's Avatar: Fire and Ash. For the first time in over 30 years, the release of a new James Cameron film has been met with a decidedly mixed reception. While his three prior films, 1997's Titanic, 2009's Avatar, and 2022's Avatar: The Way of Water, each saw their own respective backlashes and pushbacks in subsequent years, they were each greeted with unanimously positive reviews upon release, and all even nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. In stark contrast, Cameron's new film, Avatar: Fire and Ash, has been met with much less praise, with many prognosticators even predicting that it'll be Cameron's first film since True Lies back in 1994 to not at least be nominated for Best Picture. Try as I might to ignore all of this prior to my screening of the film this past week, it was all but impossible and posed a fascinating question in my head. Had I ever even considered that Avatar: Fire and Ash being a disappointment was a possibility until this moment? No. As someone who saw Avatar in a preview screening way back in 2009, really enjoyed it, and then flat out loved Way of Water in 2022, the idea that maybe this third one would be a letdown felt unfathomable. And yet, I entered the IMAX 3D theater before the screening the other night, and this was very much something that I was kind of forced to grapple with. But to my absurd delight, it turned out all of this was for naught, and that it is genuinely beyond my comprehension what any of this mixed initial reception was about, because Avatar: Fire and Ash is not only my favorite Avatar film to date, it is also one of the most distinct, idiosyncratic, and batshit gonzo blockbusters of the past decade. These are the top 5 things you need to know about Avatar: Fire and Ash. Number 5, training wheels off. One of the biggest hurdles that any new high-concept original film faces is in getting audiences on board with the story, the world, the characters at hand. Obviously, this hurdle was even larger than usual for the first Avatar film, which had the unenviable task of getting the same audiences whose last outing with Cameron was Titanic to show up and care about giant blue aliens with cat ears in the form of the Na'vi. However, Cameron handled it with grace, anchoring audiences with a surrogate in the form of protagonist Jake Sully, as played by Sam Worthington, and having them experience this bold new world the first time right alongside him. For the second film, after over a decade had passed since the first, Cameron and co made the smart choice to take their time reintroducing audiences to the world of Pandora, easing viewers back in, and gradually getting things back up to speed. However, with Avatar: Fire and Ash, James Cameron has ripped the training wheels right off this metaphorical bike, chucking audiences straight into the thick of it from the very start. This third installment is far and away the most inside baseball the franchise has gotten, but it's all in service of story. The first film built this immersive world, and the second film cultivated the characters of Jake, Neytiri, and their entire family of Sullys into this much more fully realized, intricate creation. Fire and Ash utilizes these as a launching pad and rides us to remarkable new heights as a result. Number 4, the existential themes. For many filmmakers, as they age, themes like existentialism and reflection become central to their work. To see a perfect example of this in the modern day, you don't need to look any further than people like Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, or even Ridley Scott, all of whom have made phenomenal latter-era films in recent years that specifically foreground ideas relating to time, humanity, God, and the finite limitations of those things. Interestingly, though, unlike his peers, James Cameron had never really had time to grapple with these notions in his own work. He had been so dedicated to getting this overarching Avatar saga off the ground for such a long period of time, constantly pushing forward, that it had seemed like there wasn't time for him to stop and take stock of things in that sort of way. But bewilderingly and wonderfully, Avatar: Fire and Ash bucks this thought process so wholeheartedly. Cameron essentially makes a full-blown, Disney-produced, multi-billion-dollar blockbuster about a family questioning the existence of God in the wake of tragedy. In the narrative, one of the driving questions for the whole film is Awa still out there? And if so, why does she allow terrible things to happen? Of course, in the metatext, this is taken to a whole other level, as Cameron uses this massive cinematic canvas to probe at some truly gargantuan questions and deeply fascinating thematic material. For all the discussion over the years about the on-the-nose themes at play regarding this franchise's messaging of conservationism and environmentalism, Cameron has crafted Fire and Ash as this beautiful beautiful, touching, and deeply poignant meditation on these themes in a way that feels incredibly prescient and really relevant to our modern world. Number 3, obscenely human performances. Inevitably, when people talk about the Avatar films, they want to talk about the visual effects. Cameron and his collaborators have spent literal decades reinventing the wheel in this regard, resulting in these gobsmackingly tactile digital creations and incisive performance capture methods. But I fear what might get lost in that conversation, despite Cameron's best efforts to the contrary, is the authentic humanity at the core of it all. The performances in Avatar: Fire and Ash are nothing short of spectacular, with each of the franchise's mainstays rising to new heights alongside the film and delivering their best work, bar none. Stephen Lang has never been better as the conflicted antagonist Quaritch, newcomer Una Chaplin's manic charisma oozes off the screen as Varang, and Worthington and Saldana somehow managed to further refine and hone in on the palpable and occasionally volatile passion that fuels this Sully family. There are any number of hyper-focused interpersonal scenes throughout the film in which the performers really get to tackle meaty material and make full-blown meals out of it, and the results are routinely stupendous. One of my favorite scenes in the entire film centers around Jake and Neytiri feeling backed into a corner and forced to make a hard decision regarding a member of their extended family in the form of Spider. And the authenticity and power they bring to the scene cuts straight through all of the technology. It becomes just a real human action inciting a deeply human response in the audience, and it's like a magic trick, mesmerizing to watch. Number 2, jaw-dropping spectacle. James Cameron is a legend when it comes to action cinema. This is the man who made everything from Aliens to Terminator 2 to True Lies and beyond. He knows his way around an action set piece like no one else. One of the real joys of the Avatar films up until now has always been seeing Cameron play in such a massive sandbox where technology enables him to do basically anything he can imagine. That has resulted in some real standout sequences from across the prior 2 films, but Avatar: Fire and Ash sees Cameron pushing himself to whole new levels and delivering some of the most astounding, compelling, and white-knuckled action sequences of his entire career. These things are so imaginative, so multi-tiered, and well-structured in and of themselves that entire masterclasses could be taught on each of them in isolation. The film has a ton of them, and Cameron so skillfully and articulately constructs them to be endlessly legible, fluid, and viscerally impactful. It's the cinematic equivalent of the filmmaker going for broke, betting everything on black, winning, and then immediately turning it around and doing it all over again for the entirety of the film's 3-hour-plus runtime. It incites a delirious kind of high. It's genuinely insane to watch as it happens. And number 1, James Cameron's insane vision. There are like a million other things to say about this film. It's so dense, it's so full of grade A content in the best way, but I will leave you with this. For decades, James Cameron has been rightfully renowned as the architect behind some of the greatest sequels in blockbuster history. With Aliens, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and Avatar: The Way of Water, he proved himself to be remarkably adept at upscaling the scope of a story while also digging deeper into the roots of the characters within that story. You think of Ellen Ripley in Aliens, or Sarah Connor in Terminator 2, or the Sullys in Way of Water. Each of these films challenges the characters in unprecedented ways and finds greater truths within them as a result. Avatar: Fire and Ash sees Cameron and co taking this approach and pushing it even further to such an insane effect. This threequel is monumental in every conceivable way, featuring a larger cast of characters, more locations, a much denser narrative, and more large-scale action set pieces than ever before. And yet, in addition to all of this, it is even more intimately and palpably rooted in the interpersonal lives, struggles, and emotions of these characters than it's ever been before. Gone are the simple characterizations of the first film, and in their place, there are these deeply nuanced, complex, and highly articulate multi-dimensional characters. And it's honestly just kind of insane how organic James Cameron has made that evolutionary process feel across all of the films, but specifically here in Fire and Ash, where it all kind of culminates. So the grade for Avatar: Fire and Ash, if you've listened to me gush about it for the last few minutes, shouldn't be a surprise. It's an A, a solid fucking A. I suppose I can see why some critics and audiences aren't taking to it as much as its predecessors. It's a stranger, funnier, bigger, more emotional, hornier, and altogether more bombastic film. If you're not down for all of the eccentricities and idiosyncrasies that come with that, Fire and Ash maybe isn't for you, but for the freaks like me who have spent 2025 celebrating the victories of big, ambitious, auteur-driven cinematic swings like Ryan Coogler's Sinners or Danny Boyle's 28 Years Later, or even Paul Thomas Anderson's one battle after another, Avatar Fire and Ash feels like the ultimate triumph in a year full of them. It is this batshit insane, deeply personal, distinct vision from James Cameron in the most glorious and uninhibited of ways. To put it simply, new Avatar is best Avatar. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all the things. We really appreciate it. Comment below. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me what your Avatar ranking is. Tell me why this is far from the best James Cameron movie you've ever seen. Tell me all the things. Buy me a copy of Avatar Fire and Ash on VHS. Send it to my house. Do what you will. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Bye!